Good morning, my dear ones. The sun has risen again, not by your command, not by mine, but by the mercy of God Almighty. Each morning, when the light touches your eyelids, you are being given another invitation, an invitation to begin again, to rise not only from your bed, but to rise from your pain, your fear, your doubt, your yesterday. Morning devotion. Oh, it is not just a ritual. It is a meeting, a sacred appointment between you and your Creator. When you wake up, before the world rushes in with its noise, before the phone rings, before the worries start marching through your mind, stop. Just stop and whisper, "Thank you, Lord." My dear one, when you open your eyes each morning, before the world remembers your name, before the worries find their way to your door, you are standing on holy ground. The very breath you take is a miracle. The soft light that spills through your window is not just light, it is an announcement from heaven. You are still here. You are still becoming. You are still loved. So many of us rush into our day like we're chasing something we can't quite name. We reach for our phones, our to-do lists, our worries, our noise. We let the world in before we let God in. But I tell you, there is a secret to peace, a secret that can quiet storms and heal hearts, and that secret is gratitude. Gratitude is the key that unlocks the morning. It is the bridge between your heart and heaven. When you whisper thank you, you are not just saying words, you are opening your soul. You are acknowledging that the giver of life still has you in his hands. You are telling the universe that you are aware of its blessings, no matter how small they seem. I have learned, through many storms and sleepless nights, that gratitude is not only for the good times, it is also for the days when you are crawling instead of walking, when your heart aches instead of sings. Because gratitude does not deny the pain, it transforms it. It says, even here I still see God working. Each morning you have a choice. You can rise grumbling, weighed down by yesterday's burdens, or you can rise grateful, knowing that grace met you again this morning. One attitude invites heaviness, the other invites hope. Gratitude does not erase your problems, but it reminds you that you are not facing them alone. When I wake in the morning, I try to begin with a whisper, not a shout, not a sermon, just a whisper. Thank you. I thank God for breath, for another sunrise, for the sound of my heart beating in my chest. I thank Him for the chance to try again, to forgive again, to love again. Because gratitude doesn't require perfection, it only requires awareness. So many of us are standing in the middle of answered prayers and don't even realize it. We prayed for peace and now we have quiet mornings. We prayed for provision and the pantry is not empty. We prayed for strength and yet we are still standing. But we rush past these blessings because they came wrapped in ordinary moments. We think miracles must be grand, but the truth is miracles often come disguised as Mondays. Gratitude teaches you to see again. It sharpens your vision to the subtle beauty around you, the smell of coffee brewing, the laughter of a child, the way the light falls on your table. These are not coincidences, they are love notes from heaven. Gratitude turns those small moments into sacred reminders that God is near. Some people say, "But Dr. Angelou, I don't have much to be grateful for. Life has been unkind to me, and I understand that pain. I have met it myself. I have known what it feels like to wake up weary, to carry sorrow like a shadow. But even then, especially then, you must find one small thing to thank Him for, one spark of goodness, one reason to keep breathing." Gratitude, even when whispered through tears, has the power to shift your spirit. It does not deny your suffering, it sanctifies it. There was a time when I didn't understand this truth. I thought gratitude was something you offered after the blessing came, not before. But life taught me otherwise. Gratitude before the blessing is faith. Gratitude after the blessing is testimony. Both are holy. When you start your morning by saying, "Thank you, Lord, even though I can't see the way yet," you are planting seeds for a harvest of joy. You are declaring that your trust is greater than your trouble. And you know what happens then? The day changes. The light feels warmer. The air feels softer. The people you meet seem kinder. Gratitude doesn't change the world around you as much as it changes the world within you. It shifts your perspective. It turns complaints into compassion and impatience into peace. Gratitude also keeps you humble. It reminds you that you didn't wake yourself up this morning. Mercy did. You didn't hold the earth steady through the night. God did. You didn't create the breath in your lungs. Grace did. When you realize that every beat of your heart is a gift, arrogance has no room to stay. Gratitude teaches you reverence. It teaches you to bow before the mystery of life and say, I don't understand it all, but I am thankful for the chance to live it. So before you rise from your bed tomorrow, take a moment, let the silence hold you. Feel the rhythm of your breathing, the pulse beneath your skin. Whisper your thanks. You don't need eloquence, just honesty. You don't need to pray long, just pray true. Say, thank you, Lord, for another day. Thank you for what is, for what was, and for what will be. Thank you for the light that found me again. And as you stand, know this, that single act of gratitude has already begun to change your day. It has shifted the atmosphere of your heart. It has opened a door to joy that no man can close. A grateful soul walks lighter, loves deeper, and sees clearer. Gratitude doesn't make life perfect. It makes it precious. It makes you notice the divine in the daily, the holy in the humble, the extraordinary in the ordinary. So, my dear one, begin your mornings with gratitude and watch how your life transforms. Because when you start each day with thank you, you are not just acknowledging what you have, you are inviting heaven to dwell in your heart. And there is no greater devotion, no greater prayer, no greater power than that simple sacred act of beginning your day in thanks. When the morning light finds you, my dear one, it is not simply another dawn, it is a divine invitation. The sun does not rise by accident, nor do your eyes open by coincidence. Each new morning is God's quiet way of saying, meet me again. I am here. And that meeting, that tender communion between your soul and your Creator, is what I call morning devotion. Morning devotion is not a ceremony. It is not bound by ritual or rule. It is not the length of your prayer nor the eloquence of your words that makes it sacred. It is the presence. It is the surrender. It is that moment when you stop running, stop striving, stop pretending to be strong, and simply rest in the awareness that you belong to God. Before the world comes rushing in with its noise, before the day starts pulling at your sleeve with 100 demands, there is a stillness waiting for you. In that stillness, heaven whispers, but most of us rush past it. We trade sacred silence for the shrill ring of a phone. We reach for headlines before we reach for hope. We start moving before we start listening. Yet morning devotion calls us to do the opposite, to be still and know. When you make time to meet with God in the quiet of the morning, you are saying, Lord, before I face the world, I want to face you. You are declaring, before I open my mouth to speak, I will open my heart to hear. That kind of intention changes the very rhythm of your day. It doesn't mean the day will be free of trouble, but it means trouble won't rule you, because when you start with God, you carry His peace wherever you go. I have learned that the most powerful prayers are not shouted in cathedrals, but whispered in kitchens. They are not scripted in books, but born out of need, real, raw, honest need. Morning devotion is not about impressing heaven. It is about inviting heaven. It is not about being perfect. It is about being present. You might sit in your favorite chair with a cup of coffee, or kneel beside your bed in the quiet dark, or walk outside and let the morning breeze brush your face. All these can be altars, because devotion is not about where you are, it is about who you meet there. When you turn your eyes toward heaven at the start of your day, you are aligning your spirit with the divine order of things. You are reminding yourself that life is not just about surviving, but about becoming. Becoming more aware, more compassionate, more anchored in grace. You see, devotion tunes your heart like an instrument. It takes the noise of yesterday and turns it into the harmony of today. Some people think devotion is only for the deeply spiritual, the ones who have all the right words and perfect faith. But I tell you, devotion is for the weary, the uncertain, the broken-hearted. It is for the mother who feels unseen, for the man who is tired of pretending, for the soul who can't find the right prayer to say. Morning devotion welcomes you just as you are, because God is not waiting for your performance, He is waiting for your presence. When I was younger, I believed prayer had to sound a certain way, with grand words and holy tones. But life taught me something gentler, something truer. God listens to the language of the heart. The sigh is a prayer. The tear is a prayer. The moment you say, Lord, I'm here, is enough. The moment you whisper, help me, heaven bends near. Morning devotion is a sacred conversation, not a monologue. It is speaking, yes, but also listening. Sometimes the listening is the hardest part because silence can feel uncomfortable. We want God to answer on our timetable, in our tone, in our way. But devotion teaches patience. It teaches you that silence is not absence. It is often God's way of drawing you closer. When you sit in that quiet space, maybe with your Bible open or a soft song playing, something beautiful happens. The chaos inside you begins to settle. The worries that felt too heavy start to lift. You feel a nudge, a thought, a comfort that was not there before. That's the Spirit moving through the stillness. That's God meeting you right where you are. And when you leave that sacred space and step into your day, the world looks a little different. People who once irritated you now seem like souls carrying burdens of their own. Problems that looked insurmountable now appear as opportunities to trust. That's the gift of morning devotion. It changes not only what you see, but how you see. Some mornings you might feel too tired to pray. You might feel distant, dry, distracted. On those days, don't force it. Just show up. Just say, Lord, I'm here. Because sometimes the act of showing up is the prayer itself. God honors that faithfulness. You may not feel a rush of emotion, you may not hear a booming voice, but know this: every time you turn your attention to God, heaven takes notice. Morning devotion will not always be grand, but it will always be good. It may not always be loud, but it will always be holy. Over time, it will shape you quietly, tenderly, deeply. You will start to recognize the divine not only in your morning prayer, but in the moments that follow, in the kindness of a stranger, in the warmth of sunlight, in the strength you didn't know you had. You see, morning devotion is the soul's daily reminder that you are never alone. It is where you find your grounding, your guidance, your grace. It is where fear begins to lose its voice and faith begins to find its own. So tomorrow morning, when the light spills gently across your room, take a breath. Don't rush. Don't reach for the noise. Just whisper, "Good morning, Lord." That single greeting opens the door to peace that will carry you through every storm. Meet Him in the quiet. Meet Him in the rising light. Meet Him with an open heart and an honest soul. Because morning devotion is not about giving God your time, it's about giving Him your attention. And when you do, you'll find that He's been waiting for you all along, smiling like the sun, ready to walk with you through the day. My dear one, there is something sacred about imperfection, something deeply human about our stumbles, our tears, our unfinished prayers. We live in a world that worships performance, the flawless image, the polished word, the perfect faith. But I have learned through the bruises of living that God is not impressed by perfection. He is moved by presence. He does not ask for you to shine before you come to Him. He asks only that you come. Presence over perfection, that is the language of grace. You see, we often delay our prayers until we feel ready. We tell ourselves, I'll pray when my heart is right, or I'll return to devotion when I'm stronger. But my love, if you wait until you are perfect, you will never come. If you wait until you feel holy, you will never kneel. The beauty of God's love is that it welcomes you as you are, trembling, tired, uncertain, incomplete. The door to His presence is not locked by your flaws. It swings wide open when you simply show up. When I was younger, I used to believe prayer had to be beautiful, that every word had to fit neatly together, every sentence must sound like poetry. But life has a way of unteaching the things that keep us bound. After walking through heartache, loss, and disappointment, I learned that the most powerful prayers are not the prettiest. They are the most honest. Sometimes all you can manage to say is, Lord, help me. Sometimes you can't say anything at all. Just sit in the stillness and let your tears do the talking. And do you know what? God understands that language too. Presence means being there, fully there, even when you don't have all the answers. Perfection tries to impress, but presence tries to connect. When you come before God with your whole self, your doubts, your fears, your dreams, your brokenness, you are offering Him something real. You are saying, "Here I am, Lord. I don't have it all together, but I'm here." And that, my dear, is the kind of prayer that moves heaven. The world tells you to curate your image, to hide your pain behind a smile, to fix your hair, your voice, your life before you step out. But God, in His tender mercy, says, "Come as you are." He doesn't need your performance, He desires your presence, because when you show up in truth, He can work with that. He can take your rawness and shape it into wisdom. He can take your pain and turn it into purpose. He can take your confusion and bring you clarity. Sometimes I think of a small child learning to walk. They stumble, they fall, they cry, but they get back up, wobbling, reaching for their parents' hands. The parent doesn't scold them for falling. They celebrate the courage it took to try again. That is how God sees you. He's not keeping score of your mistakes. He's rejoicing in your attempts. Every time you turn your heart toward Him, no matter how imperfectly, He smiles. We spend so much time trying to perfect our outer lives while neglecting the simple act of being still. But stillness is where God speaks. It is where you hear the whispers that remind you of who you are. You don't have to perform to be loved. You don't have to earn your worth. You are already enough because you belong to Him. When you embrace presence over perfection, you begin to see your flaws not as failures, but as invitations. Each one says, "Come closer." Each one says, "Let me heal this." Each one says, "I can work with this." Perfection says, "Hide your wounds." Presence says, "Bring them to the light." And oh, how freeing it is to be seen and still loved, to stand before your Creator, messy, unfinished, human, and feel no shame. That is grace. That is love in its purest form. Presence also means being aware. When you are present in your morning devotion, you are not just going through the motions. You are awake to the sacredness of that moment. You are listening for God not only in the thunder but in the whisper. You begin to notice Him in the ordinary, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your breath, the stillness between your words. Sometimes in our pursuit of perfection, we miss the beauty of the moment we're in. We rush through prayer as if it's a checklist item, forgetting that it's a conversation. We want results, not relationship. But presence invites you to slow down, to sit in the silence, to let your soul catch up to your body. In that pause, in that still breath, God often speaks the loudest. There will be mornings when your mind wanders, when your prayers feel dry, when your heart feels distant. Don't let that discourage you. Devotion is not about emotion. It's about consistency. Even on the days when you feel nothing, your showing up still matters. Faith is not proven in your feelings. It is proven in your faithfulness. Perfection is a burden that weighs heavy. It whispers that you are never enough, never holy enough, never worthy enough. But presence releases that burden. It says you are enough because you are here. It says you are loved not for what you do, but for who you are. And so each morning when you come before God, don't bring Him your performance. Bring Him your presence. Don't rehearse what sounds right. Reveal what feels true. Tell Him about your doubts, your hopes, your fears, your gratitude. Tell Him about the things you cannot tell anyone else. Then sit quietly. Let Him speak to the silence inside you. In that exchange, that beautiful, honest, unpolished moment, transformation happens. Not because you did everything perfectly, but because you dared to be real. You will begin to find that the more present you are with God, the more peaceful you become. You will stop chasing the illusion of perfection and start embracing the truth of grace. You will learn that holiness is not about never falling, but about always returning. You will find beauty not in your performance, but in your persistence. So tomorrow morning when you rise to pray, don't worry about sounding right or looking right. Just be right here. Heart open, soul willing, mind quiet. Let your prayer be as simple as breathing. Here I am, Lord. Meet me. Because the power of devotion does not come from your perfection. It comes from your presence. And when you show up trembling, hopeful, imperfect, heaven leans in close and says, "That sip's enough." Faith, my dear one, is a lens, a way of seeing. It does not always change what stands before you, but it changes how you look at it. It transforms the landscape of your heart, the rhythm of your thoughts, the meaning of your struggle. Faith does not remove the mountain, but it gives you the strength to climb. It does not silence the storm, but it gives you the courage to stand in the rain. When you begin your mornings in devotion, something sacred happens within you. Your vision begins to shift. You stop seeing life through the eyes of fear and start seeing it through the eyes of faith. Faith transforms perspective. It takes what looks like an ending and whispers, "No, this is a beginning." It takes pain and reveals purpose. It takes delay and teaches patience. Faith is not blind. It sees deeper. It sees beyond what is visible to what is promised. It looks past the surface of the struggle and finds the seed of strength hidden within. When you walk by faith, you begin to notice that every obstacle has a lesson. Every heartbreak carries wisdom. Every season holds meaning. The things that once made you bitter start to make you better, because faith has taught you to look again, to look not at what is lost, but at what remains. Not at what is broken, but at what can still be built. I have lived long enough to know that faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to keep moving anyway. Some mornings you may wake up and your world feels heavy. The news is grim, the bills are due, the body aches, the heart is weary. And yet somewhere deep inside, faith whispers, "Rise." That whisper is your light. It doesn't erase the darkness, but it reminds you that darkness cannot last forever. Morning always comes. Faith teaches you that your circumstances are not your conclusion. You may have been hurt, betrayed, or forgotten. But faith tells you that this is not the end of your story. God still holds the pen, and when He writes in redemption. He takes the ashes of your disappointment and breathes beauty into them. He takes what the enemy meant for harm and turns it into good. Faith gives you the courage to believe that even your tears are watering tomorrow's blessings. Sometimes faith doesn't change the situation, it changes you. It changes how you think, how you respond, how you carry yourself. It lifts your eyes off what went wrong and turns them toward what's possible. It breaks the chains of "why me?" and replaces them with "what now, Lord?" Faith moves you from questioning to trusting, from blaming to believing. When you live by faith, you stop seeing life as random. You begin to sense a divine rhythm in the chaos. Even in your struggles, you start to see God's fingerprints. The job you didn't get, the person who left, the plan that fell apart. Faith teaches you that maybe, just maybe, those things were not losses, but protection. Maybe God was redirecting you, not rejecting you. Morning devotion becomes the training ground for this vision. When you spend those quiet moments with God, your heart learns to focus on His promises instead of your problems. You stop magnifying what's wrong and start magnifying who's right, the one who reigns above it all. Faith turns your why into thank you. It turns anxiety into assurance. I have known what it feels like to walk through fire and still believe in rain. I have sat in silence waiting for answers that didn't come right away. But every time I returned to devotion, faith met me there. It didn't always give me explanations, but it always gave me peace. Sometimes faith doesn't show you the whole path. It just lights your next step, and that, my dear one, is enough. Faith also changes how you see yourself. You begin to understand that you are not defined by your failures, but refined by them. You are not broken beyond repair, you are being remade. Faith reminds you that even when life knocks you down, you are not alone on the ground. God's hand is still reaching for you, saying, "Get up, beloved. There's more for you yet." It takes faith to believe that beauty can rise from ashes, that forgiveness can heal the deepest wounds, that joy can return after sorrow. But once you have seen God bring light out of your darkest nights, you will never again doubt His power to transform. You will start to see challenges as classrooms and trials as teachers. You will thank him not only for what he gives, but for what he withholds, because faith knows that if it didn't happen, it wasn't meant to help you grow. Faith gives you divine perspective, a higher view. It lifts you above your circumstances so you can see beyond them. Like an eagle rising on the wind, you begin to understand that the higher you go, the smaller your troubles look. Faith gives you wings when the world gives you weight. And when your faith deepens, gratitude flows more freely. You start to thank God even in advance, before the blessing comes, before the door opens, before the pain lifts. That kind of gratitude is rooted in faith, for it believes that God is already working behind the scenes. You begin to live not by what you see, but by what you know, that all things are working together for your good. So when you rise in the morning, let faith be your lens. Before you check your messages, check your heart. Before you count your worries, count your blessing. Tell yourself, today I will see with the eyes of faith, because faith will show you that the mountain you fear to climb is smaller than the God who made it. It will show you that even in your waiting you are growing. It will show you that hope is never wasted when it is placed in His hands. My dear one, faith transforms perspective because it lifts your gaze. It teaches you to stop staring at the storm and start looking for the rainbow. It teaches you that every valley has a view if you just keep walking. It teaches you that pain, though it visits, cannot stay when purpose arrives. So hold on to faith. Water it with your prayers. Feed it with your praise. And when life feels dark, let that little spark of belief light your way. Because faith doesn't just change what you see, it changes you. It makes you softer, wiser, braver. It turns your eyes toward the light until one day you realize the light has been inside you all along. My dear one, every day that begins with God begins differently. When you open your eyes and your first thought is not of worry, not of duty, not of fear, but of Him, the day takes on another color. The air feels lighter, the hours move with purpose, and peace, like a gentle garment, drapes itself around your shoulders. When you start your morning with God, you are not simply stepping into another day, you are stepping into divine direction. You are walking hand in hand with grace. Grace, you see, is the quiet companion that walks beside the faithful. It does not shout. It does not boast. It does not need recognition. But it is always there, steady, patient, unfailing. Grace meets you where strength ends. It whispers when courage falters. It reminds you, even on your worst days, that you are still loved, still chosen, still guided. A day started with God is not a day without challenge, but it is a day where challenge cannot conquer you. It is a day where your peace is not easily stolen because you have anchored it in something eternal. The world will still demand your attention, the storms may still come, but your foundation will not shake. For it was built in the morning light, when your spirit bowed before the one who holds all things together. When you begin your day with prayer, you are not just speaking into the air, you are setting the tone for everything that will follow. You are declaring to heaven and earth, this day does not belong to chance, it belongs to God. You are saying, my steps are not random, they are ordered. That simple act, those quiet few moments before the noise begins, can transform how you walk, how you see, how you live. I have found that the way you start your morning is the way you shape your destiny. A morning filled with gratitude gives birth to a heart filled with joy. A morning surrendered to God gives birth to a day guided by grace. Grace will open doors you didn't knock on. Grace will protect you from battles you didn't even know were coming. Grace will carry you through moments when your strength fails and your courage wanes. So when you wake, before your feet touch the floor, breathe and whisper, Lord, lead me. Those 3 words can change the entire course of your day. Because when God leads, you walk differently. You move with calmness even in chaos. You speak with kindness even when surrounded by harshness. You stand firm even when the ground beneath you shakes. That is what grace does. It steadies your spirit. Some people wake and reach for their worries. They pick them up like old friends. But those who wake and reach for God instead find something far better, perspective. Because when you put God first, everything else falls into its rightful place. You stop chasing control and start choosing trust. You stop striving to fix everything and start resting in the one who already holds everything. A day guided by grace teaches you to listen more than you react, to breathe before you respond, to forgive quicker and to love deeper. It gives you divine patience in the face of delay and divine wisdom in moments of confusion. You see, grace is not a reward for the perfect. It is strength for the willing. It flows freely to the one who simply says, "Lord, I need you." Some mornings you may feel weary. The night before may have left you with burdens too heavy to carry. But even then, God's grace is waiting. It does not ask if you are worthy, it simply asks if you are willing to let go, willing to listen, willing to trust. The moment you do, peace begins to settle over your heart like dew on the morning grass. Grace also has a way of redirecting your steps. Sometimes you'll plan one thing, but grace will lead you somewhere unexpected. You may call it coincidence, but those who walk with God know better. Every detour, every delay, every closed door, they are not punishment. They are protection. Grace is often doing its finest work in the unseen, rearranging what you cannot yet understand. And as you move through your day, grace continues to follow you like a shadow that never leaves. It walks into rooms before you do. It softens hearts you will meet. It paves roads you cannot see. It whispers reminders when fear begins to rise. You are not alone. When you start your day with God, your reactions change. Instead of anger, you find gentleness. Instead of worry, you find stillness. Instead of despair, you find hope. That's not by accident, that's by grace. It's the invisible hand of love that steadies you, even when life feels uncertain. And oh, how beautiful life becomes when you recognize God's fingerprints in the detail. The simple kindness of a stranger, the unexpected pause that saves you from rushing, the soft words of comfort from someone who didn't even know you needed them. These are the quiet echoes of grace, reminding you that heaven is nearer than you think. To live a day guided by grace is to walk with eyes open to wonder. It is to expect beauty even in broken places. It is to say, "God, I don't know what this day holds, but I know who holds me." And when you walk with that kind of faith, even the smallest moments shimmer with purpose. You see, grace is not only a gift, it is guidance. It moves you gently toward peace when you're tempted toward panic. It pulls you toward forgiveness when pride tries to harden your heart. It humbles you when success comes too easily and strengthens you when loss comes too soon. Grace will not always make life easy, but it will always make it holy. So tomorrow, when the light of dawn brushes across your face, pause before you rush into the world. Let your first breath be praise. Let your first thought be gratitude. Let your first word be God's name. Invite Him in, not just into your morning, but into your meetings, your moments, your mess. Because a day begun in His presence will never lack His power. And when the sun sets and the day is done, you will look back and see that you were never walking alone. You will see how grace showed up, in the patience you didn't know you had, in the peace that stayed through the storm, in the small blessings that filled your hours like quiet miracles. My dear one, start your day with God, and you will find that even in the hardest seasons, life still sings. The melody may change, but the harmony of grace will remain, and one morning you will wake not just to a new day, but to a new way of seeing, knowing beyond doubt that when you walk with God, every step is sacred, and every moment is guided by grace.